7:30 Central Time on NBC. Captain Nice, champion of justice.
It's some nut in his underwear.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Years of work pretty much into this big coffee table book, which now is benefited by a show like this where you can see a lot of this stuff that I newly created and some of the older stuff I've done.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. For just $3 a month or more, you'll get exclusive access to the Word Balloon e-magazine, featuring transcriptions of some of my best conversations. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. It's time again for another Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome back Kelly Jones and Matt Wagner to Word Balloon. Good to see you guys.
Hey, John. How you been?
How you doing?
Doing all right, man. What's up? What's up? Very excited today because we're heading to the final turn of Kel and Matt's excellent adventure with the Prince of Darkness himself, Dracula, Volume 3.
Not the final turn, John.
Oh, is there more than 3 volumes?
There's 4. There's at least 4. We have plans for 4.
Wow.
We'll see where the darkness takes us after that.
Okay. Wow. All right. Because obviously, yeah, we're and I you guys tell me, because now he's in London and there's kind of a narrative turn, right, in Volume 3?
Yeah, this in some ways I keep saying to people that this is the one that we're aiming for from the beginning. Because as fans of Bram Stoker's original 1897 novel know, that once the action shifts from his castle in Transylvania to the streets of Victorian London, he's off stage the whole time, pretty much. The heroes keep tracking him down, and they keep getting some second and third hand reports of stuff he'd been doing, but he's off stage, and so we decided we needed to show you what he's doing when he's in London, because that's the bulk of the novel. So this is not an adaptation of the novel. You won't really see the events as they unfold in the novel. You'll see some touch points that you might recognize. But yeah, he's sneaking around. He definitely has plans. He's not really paying attention to that crew of heroes. He doesn't really know anything about them. And yeah, it was quite an intensive challenge to. Let me backtrack just a bit by saying, this book is, I always maintain Dracula's the world's most famous literary character. There's almost nowhere in the world you can go and say the name Dracula and people don't know who you're talking about. As a result, it's also one of the world's most annotated and analyzed books. One of the reasons for that is that it's written in what's called an epistolary style, which means there's no omniscient narrator. It's all letters and journals and news articles. So as a result, all the events in the book are dated by both month and day. So it's very easy to break it down as to how the events actually take place. So I had to make sure that all this fit exactingly in with the canon of what's there, because there's a ton of Dracula literary scholars who will take us to task if it doesn't fit, and yet at the same time, I have to recognize that a lot of people know Dracula from movies and have not read the book. And we also needed to make it a narrative that would be interesting to them as well. So it was quite a challenge. I keep saying this is one of the most intensive things I've ever written.
Yeah, it would have to be, Matt. The research on it is phenomenal. I mean, everything you've come up with is just so,
and it fits. It fits.
Yes, and that's the thing. It isn't like you just looked up stuff. It all has to jigsaw to one another, and that knocked me out when I read it. It was like I had not read anything like that before. And
like I said, if you haven't read the book, you don't need to have.
no, you don't.
It still unfolds in a way
I
that'll be
think
very
people-
intriguing and entertaining to a newbie.
Even if it's people who just know all the various Dracula movies, it will be utterly brand new.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Dracula you don't see, but he's every bit as awful. Actually, more awful.
We
Yes,
like awful.
Matt-
We like
Matt had
we
to
like
do all
unrepentant villains.
Yeah, Matt had to do all this research, and I just had to do boobs and blood, and that makes it.
But Kel, was it more challenging this volume compared to the
No,
the other two?
people. I've never been an artist who says draw what I want to write, what I want to draw. I don't do that. I think the only way you get better is people just write something and then you have to figure it out. So Matt would say, "Oh, we're going to do all this different stuff, and it's in Victorian English." It didn't scare me at all, because if you're going to get better, you got to keep trying, and the only way to do it is stories that you have to make work. And so when I read it, my only thing was, does it have emotion in it? And it did, and that's all I need. The rest of it I'll figure out.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Kelly getting better, because holy shit, this stuff is great. And as good as books 1 and 2 are, number 3 knocks it out of the park.
It does, and I think
the setting isn't mountains and castles and stuff. It's
No.
the intricacies of Victorian London, the streets, the buildings, the atmosphere, and everything. And boy, he nails it.
And it's what you want. I mean, something I've never liked it when like I said, when someone tries to gear it towards me. Just tell their story, and then like I said, I'll figure it out. But I loved it when I read it, because I knew it would, just in the change of venue, I knew it would differentiate itself from the prior one. And it did. As I was about 20 pages in, and I knew this was going to work. I mean, I just looked at it and went, people aren't going to miss all the other stuff. They're going to really get into this. This is
because of course, again, this scenario is the trappings most people are familiar with him and being in London, and around preying on people.
Hat. He's wearing that top hat.
Yeah. We have him wearing a top hat a lot, so he very much evokes the Lon Chaney vampire from London After Midnight.
Yeah, it's
and,
great.
Oh my God, he looks so sinister. It's great.
He looks great. Yeah.
Outstanding. Matt, are we getting it? So are we getting into Dracula's head as far as his strategy?
Sure.
How he
Yeah,
operates?
because we are with him. Again, okay. Let me backtrack there a little bit. When I mentioned that the novel is epistolary, well, it's full of all these voices, the voices of the various heroes and their opinions and everything. The voice that's missing is Dracula. Now, I understand why Bram Stoker wrote it that way. That makes Dracula a sinister presence. Scary. You don't know him. You can't get into his head. But it's been 100+ years now, 125 years, 127 years, I think. It's time we heard what Dracula has to say about it, and he's in a major, one of the world's major metropolises at this point, and he had come from 400 years in the remote Carpathian highlands, with just peasants and superstitions and wolves and, deep, dark forests, now he's in a different kind of forest, an urban forest, And so we see him exploring this world and learning how to navigate it. Like, for instance, there were a lot of practical things I had to address. Like, for instance, we all know the trope of a vampire has to be invited into a dwelling, right? Well, in London, there are millions of thresholds. How's he get past those? He has to figure out a way in each instance to how does he get invited in, he does. But... and it's as I said, he's not really thinking about the heroes. There's and I addressed this in the third book as well. There's a whole lot of novel coincidences in the original novel. Like, for instance, Jonathan Harker travels all the way from London to Transylvania to sell him this dilapidated estate in the eastern suburbs of London, and then when Dracula's ship crash lands on the northeastern coast of England, the first woman he meets and preys on just happens to be the best friend of Jonathan's fiance, and then the house that he buys just happens to be next to a sanitarium owned by a doctor who's in love with the woman that was the first woman he preyed on when he got to England. So just a whole lot of coincidental conveniences there, which again I do address in the script for the third one. But yeah, like I said, just a lot of practical things and a lot of following him through with what his eventual schemes are. Like, for instance,
it's genuinely creepy.
Yeah,
me.
that too. It has to be that.
Genuinely a creepy horror story.
But, everybody knows Carfax.
Yep.
Most people call it Carfax Abbey. It's not an abbey in the book. They conflate it with Whitby Abbey, which is where the ship, the Demeter crashes. There's an abandoned abbey there. So that kind of gets paired up with Carfax in most film adaptations. Carfax is just a dilapidated estate, an abandoned estate dating back hundreds of years. So everybody knows Carfax, and that's where he stashes his 50 crates of earth that he brings, to London from Transylvania, because, of course, he needs to sleep on his native soil to re-empower his vampiric powers, But what most people don't realize in the book, he purchases other buildings around London. He starts distributing the coffins around, so he's not all in one spot, So, we show him doing that. We show him exploring these areas. And, of course, he runs into – he's just a deadly asshole everywhere he goes.
When does Renfield make an
Oh, sure, yeah. Renfield is in the in fact, of the characters in the book, Renfield is the one that makes the kind of the most prominent appearance. We tried to keep the characters in the book in the background or in the shadows, so they're there and such. But the point is, this is all from his point of view, and so it's not they aren't really in the forefront.
Yeah, I never really drew them. They're kind of just like he said in the background.
From the beginning in the text, in the script, I said to Kelly, we need to not see these people. Yeah. They're either off panel or they're in shadows or we see them from behind or something like this.
And I think it worked great.
It does.
It worked great. I think Renfield's the only one, like you said, you actually see, and it's important you do. But that's because he has direct contact with him. Dracula does.
Yep.
But the others are there just because they were in the novel. So you want to connect all the parts up, but it's his story. It's Dracula's
and unlike, I'm sure a lot of people who would consider themselves Dracula fans, as Kel said earlier, know it mainly from the movies. Well, this whole concept that he's a romantic figure and that he's in love with one of these two women, Lucy or Mina, or he imagines Mina to be the resurrection of his long dead lover or wife, that is nowhere in the book. Nothing. He preys on Lucy because she's convenient. She's the first one he runs into. And then he keeps going back to her because it's convenient. And then he preys on Mina because he wants to weaponize her against the people that he knows now are stalking him. Yeah. That's it. There's no tender feelings at all. And yes, hungry. It's more than just hunger. It's manipulation as well. With Lucy, it's hunger. I really make a point to try and describe the sensuality of his drinking blood. He talks in the second book about how it's the most wonderful thing he's ever experienced, and in the third book, everybody he preys on, I have him describe what they taste like. And a lot of it has to do with their emotional state and their class, their kind of social political class, and it changes for each and every one, and I can't remember what he describes Lucy.
So do posh people taste better than the
not necessarily. Women taste better than men. Women taste better than men. Yeah, that's spawned from in the book we don't see him prey on any men. He does, but it's only women that he goes after. Yeah, men, and he describes that it's just that they taste better to it.
The only time he does is to control them, control men.
For functional reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, women, it's food and erotic and sex and hunger and all those things all thrown together.
All that, but no romance.
Oh, God, no.
No tender feelings is what I keep coming back to.
No, I never saw him that way. It's like, what he needs at that moment, and it fulfills it, and then he's on to his bigger agenda.
In fact, in each one of the brides, as he gets each one of his three brides, he has a little mantra that changes a little bit with each one of them. But the basic gist of it is, mine to embrace, mine to maintain, mine to do which with as I please.
Yeah.
So, he's in control all the time in his mind,
Well, and becoming a vampire, he's becoming less human, but he doesn't know it yet. So he's going through the motions thinking he should have these things in his life, these women. And as he moves on, it's like, he's casting off that humanity.
Yeah, and that's the thing in the second book, something that somebody could interpret as tender feelings, but in my mind isn't. With the three brides, when he was alive, he was married twice and never had any children. And so these are the first things he's ever created. And he feels a certain responsibility to them. And that's not tender. That's more of his megalomaniacal attitude,
Yeah.
I made this. It's going to sustain.
As Matt did,
success,
I thought very wisely, very shrewdly focused on the girl politics in that castle. And so Dracula's having to deal with that. And it's not like broad funny. We're not doing it. It's just what's going on. And Matt just told me one day, he says, well, he does this. And now he's got to pretty much stay on the grounds in the castle with three women that are never going to die, and that really, that set the tone for me. It's like, yeah, it's girl politics. And that makes the brides far more interesting.
Matt, did you, and Kel too, beyond the text of Bram Stoker, did you look at other adaptations? I remember Orson Welles and Bogdanovich in Bogdanovich's book about Wells talking about Dracula. And he just goes on about no one's really done the book. The book is amazing. And I never listened to his Mercury Theater adaptation.
It's okay. It's not the book either. Of course, it's truncated due to its length,
Well, yeah, that's true. It's only an hour. Yeah.
But yes, of course. So especially for this one, which again, as I have said over and over again here, I had to get exactly right. I had 3 different annotated versions I was working off of. I have a facsimile of Stoker's original notes and outlines, which are all intact and all stored in a place called the Rickenbach Museum in Philadelphia. So I used those. I had maps of Victorian London. I had a calendar from one of the annotated versions because, again, it's all spelled out what happens on each day. So here was this calendar, and I had to make it all fit in. Okay, here's this happens, and here this happens. This calendar even had the sunrise and sunset times and the phases of the moon on it. I was really trying hard to get it all right. But then, I have lots of other, there's lots of other cool versions of Dracula. I have probably 4 or 5 screenplays and stage play versions. One of the screenplays never got produced was written by infamous director Ken Russell, who of course
that would have been great.
Tommy, yeah, and it's pretty good. What else? There was a book a number of years ago that was a big hit called The Historian by a woman named Elizabeth Kostavas. And it's a Dracula sequel. It's really good. It's a long, slow burn, but I liked it quite a bit. Back in the 70s, science fiction writer Fred Saberhagen did a variety of Dracula pastiche novels. One was called The Dracula Tapes, and that is the events from his point of view. The other one I really liked when I was a teenager was called The Holmes Dracula Files, where Sherlock Holmes goes up against Dracula. Yeah. And then there's a series that I just adore because it's so wackadoodle. It's called the Dracula Horror Series. And when I was a tween, I saw these on the shelves all the time in bookstores. And they're little paperbacks. They're about the size of the Doc Savage paperbacks, the Bantam reprints from the 70s. And it's written by a guy named Robert Lowry. And they are crazy. It's almost like a take on the exploitation films of the time. So Dracula there's a crime fighting team. And it's led by a Professor X guy, a guy who has telepathy and is quadriplegic, so just like Professor X, right?
Wow.
Or paraplegic, and there's a werecat woman, and his personal bodyguard is a 6.5 foot tall Puerto Rican martial arts expert. And anyway, they resurrect Dracula, And there's this convoluted thing with how they take the stake that was in his heart, they take off a big shard of it, and the doctor surgically implants it right next to his heart and sews him up. So then if Dracula ever gets out of line with his telepathy, he can he can skewer his heart with the thing. So this is how he keeps him in line. And he just uses Dracula as the team's like attack dog, like to fight the bad guys. And Dracula's constantly trying to break free. And, you know, they're just crazy. And they're just so much pulpy fun.
Yeah. I didn't look at anything. I went by
I
Matt.
that, Kel, but yeah, please.
Matt had done all this work and wanted it original, so I wouldn't look at anything but go by what he said, and I made a point of that. With the brides, they're all from women I know in real life.
Which is way cool.
Yeah, and I went and I asked them each one.
I was going to say, do they know?
Yeah, I said, now you don't mind because it's pretty
bad things.
raw. But I let them know what Matt was going to do to them and how this would all go. And they all jumped at it. And they said, okay, he basically bites, rapes, murders, kills, you know, all that terrible stuff. They're in, right? But I did it because their personalities all were very close to what Matt was writing, you know? In fact, it was eerie because I'm reading, I go, well, that's her. But my first thought was, well, now I kind of have an idea of where to go because I know them really well. And it's great. I'm, like I said, though, you may not want this to happen because it's so wonderful, gory, gross. And no, they all jumped. They all wanted to be in it. They all, in fact, in the next week or two, I'm going to take them all out to lunch and give them their books. And yeah, but that was,
dude, I got to hear a report back right away about that.
I will. So I'll take them out and give them their books. But they were all very excited. And Matt, I would show them the sections and say, if you opt out, it's okay. Because people are going to wonder, how did you see that much of her? How did you? That's the imagination. But they all went for it, and it's the big moment in their life is they get to be one of the girls of
one of the brides of Dracula.
Yes. It's funny
Who
how
doesn't want to say that? Come on.
Yeah, well, they all do. So, in fact, my little sketches I had done to show Matt what they would kind of look like, I'm giving each one of them their drawings.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we reproduced in volume 2 in the
they're in the second book, so they'll see it.
Yeah.
I just don't give their names because everyone would then go and look and check it and see.
Absolutely. That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Jesus. Well, I hope there's.
And I normally don't do that.
I
I normally do not do that. But Matt had written them so I love the characterization of the brides. I felt terrible knowing they're gonna go, right? Because I really started falling in love with them all. They were just so interesting.
Yeah, part of the challenge there was the brides make such as with so much of Dracula and his appearances in the book. They're brief and they're vague, and yet they're full of tantalizing hints.
Yeah.
And so the brides, the brides of Dracula, even though they're never actually called the brides in the book, they are just vampiric women that live in the castle. So of course they're his consorts in some fashion, But they make such an indelible impression that they show up in almost every film adaptation,
But
and
Matt,
they're in the book for 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah,
That's
but
it,
you made them so each one's personality, their character, whatever, I instantly connected to it. I mean, I was fascinated with them.
Well, that was the challenge. They had to be 3 completely different women.
That was one of those home runs. Matt hits a lot, but that one I went, boy, they gotta hold court.
Yeah.
And so how interesting.
And he needed to want each one of them for different reasons.
And so each one, Matt tells like they're short stories of how he courted them, I guess is the word. And then, I use
hunted, I would say more likely.
Yeah, because it's pretty, but I found it so interesting that when he had done that, and then they're all together. It was like, yes, that's enough to sustain. Actually, it makes the book worth it just for that.
And another neat detail then is, as I said, he wanted each one of them for different reasons. They each had different personalities and things that make them special. But once he turns them, each of them lost a little bit of the humanity that made him want them to begin with.
Yeah,
because of course like he's contagion, right? He brings
Xerox of a Xerox of them. Yes.
Yeah.
They're losing their humanity once he gets to them.
Sure, because they become focused on the same things, and so it's just basically what. But I do like how they're not because he uses eerie mat. They are devoted to him in their way. They're devoted to him, so they're jealous, and you see all that stuff. But they're fully formed characters from, like Matt said, just a few lines, just a few descriptions. That's why I didn't want to look at anything, because Matt was doing this, and I went, these aren't the girls I've seen or the women I've seen in the movies or anything like that. These are regular women.
Neat little subtle little detail we have in there is that the last one that he takes, Tatiana, she's the one that's most ashamed of being turned.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, she has the most voracious hunger for blood. She's the biggest pig for the blood. But as a result, every time you see her where she's not feeding, she's wearing a veil over the lower half of her face to hide her fangs. And again, we never really explained that. It's just
and like it's those touches all through it. Those touches. The second bride, her relationship with her father, wonderful. The first gal, her dad works there at the gypsy.
The first one's a servant, the second one's an aristocrat, and the third one's a mystic.
All fabulous. And like I said, I knew these girls as soon as I read them. I knew them. And it was like,
well, we were lucky in that one, weren't we?
Yeah, I was. And I'll be honest with you. There's one thing when you look for reference and you dig through things or whatever, but when someone's Matt came up with 3 characters, it's like 3 new characters. So when he first said that, I went, I don't know how I'm going to work on that, because I don't want it to just look like superhero thing, or you want these to be real people. So, but when I read his script, they were there. I knew them. So I went, okay, called them all, got permission, I told them what was going on, but they became real. That's why,
okay, let's be honest here too, Cal. For one of them, you just walked down the hall.
Yeah, she's down the hall.
One of them's his wife.
That was the one I was afraid, because Matt was, she's very elite and she's very arrogant, and I'm going, yeah, I know her.
No, wait a minute. You've never used your wife as a model before?
Never.
Wow.
Yeah, in like I couldn't get something right way, like I needed an
so for like a gesture or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But but it's one of those things that I'm glad I waited for this.
Me too.
I'm glad I waited, because I didn't know it was coming. So when he's describing her, I told her, I said, okay, Matt, and I said, she's a kind of elite, kind of arrogant, and she just raises her hand. Yeah. And I said, okay, you're cool with that. And she goes, yeah. So, and then another one I had known for like 25, 30 years. And she's like a sister. But Matt nailed it. And I said, that's her. I said, that's her. Just even the kind of holistic, would cover her face if she had fangs. She wouldn't want to be rude. And I'm like, God, that's her. So they all worked out, and they became alive.
I had the same thing in Mage, especially in the last book of Mage, where I had a character that was based on my sister-in-law, Diana Schutz, who is, my longtime editor at Dark Horse. And, I had her doing a couple things in that last part. And I said to her, okay, you all right with this? And she just said, she just said, I know who I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love her.
Because I'm always going to serve the story first. So whatever happens, happens. And I didn't know how far some of this would go. I mean, I read the script, but when you draw it, that's when it tells you what it needs. So there'd be some days I went, you know, I'd be happy, and Matt would respond saying, "That's it, that's it." And then I went, "Okay, is this okay?
Let me take it down the hall."
No, but I got no pushback. I got no go as far as you want. They understood. It's but the greatness of it, like I said, was Matt's great characters came to life. And that was the neat trick. Everyone knows Dracula, but the girls, they didn't know.
Because there's nothing there to know. There's
there
almost no detail in the book.
And
the only detail is that one of them's blonde as opposed to dark. The other two are dark. And the blonde one seems to be of a higher social class because they both defer to her to have the first feeding on Jonathan.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And in real life, that would happen too. So
do you find that in general, Kelva, when you get a script that it isn't until you're drawing that certain things occur to you as far as what to put on the page?
What I look for and what I got from Matt, though Matt didn't know, is a lot of people think, oh, visual. You're going to think visual. To me, it's always emotion, because out of that, the ideas come. And I try not to think about it. I know the story. I read his scripts about 5 or 6 times before I start. And then the only notes I'll make are very general, like atmospheric things, not specific. And then when I get there, it'll happen. And bang, you just let it go. He'll have some time where he'll do certain things. And Matt's very good at letting me do this. I mean, I always wait. If he says too far, I say, okay, but he hasn't said too far yet. So, or certain things on just how I'm not as concerned with storytelling as I am with impact. And however I get that, I'll take it.
And that's emotion. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I've never been one of those guys, and I know I've never sat there and studied storytelling comic book wise. I look at it more maybe from film on how I react to an image. And Matt will do this thing I like where he'll set me up for that shot, for that reveal, whatever it is. And however I get there.
Well, that's because I draw too, dude. I know how that works.
He does. But Matt is Matt's fabulous storyteller. I don't know if I am. I don't really think I am. I think what I do is ideas. It's almost stream of consciousness sometimes. And I have to watch
your story. Your storytelling is great, dude. There have been a few points where I point something out to you. Look, from a storytelling standpoint, this point is confusing. We need to readdress that, you know. And usually Kelly's always like, you know, oh yeah,
no,
you're absolutely right.
Because beyond Matt being look, I became more of Matt because I was a big fan of his art. First and foremost, that was it. And I wanted to meet him. I made a point to go to a show in Detroit to meet him. That's where I met him, just to see him. And we locked eyes because as soon as we got off the plane, we're all waiting to go. And that's the guy, because I was really into his stuff. I really liked it. He did this demon thing I thought was wonderful. He did this Batman thing that I just knocked me out. There's a few shots that I just went, man, I wish I'd have thought of that. They're that good. So
then we truly got to know each other on the, we both contributed art to the Sandman Season of Mist story arc. Kelly drew the absolute lion's share. I drew one chapter, but we did a variety of signing appearances. And of course, it's us two and Neil. And of course, all the little goth girls in line are just melting over Neil, which leaves Kelly and I to just like shoot the shit. And it turned out, we have so many common interests and a mutual sense of humor. And we just
we had a great time. In '92, we were in Houston. And that's where we sat next to each other. Yep. And Chris Claremont was on the other end. And I was talking to Matt the whole time. I didn't, and that's where I think at that point I went, man, one of these days I got to do something with him, because I was really digging what he did. And I was the odd duck in the mainstream world, and Matt was in the world I really wanted to be in, but I wasn't independent enough for that. So I
never wired in at that point.
I never fit. anywhere really. I mean, my careers basically have in comics. I've never drawn really superheroes or anything. I've never. I mean, I don't really have.
You've drawn superheroes, but they're always spooky superheroes.
Well, I do what I do to them.
Yeah.
So I've never fit in that world. I orbit very far from the sun there, and so I always felt much more. Matt introduced me to Tim Sale. I mean, all the people that I was admiring and I was following. And so, and I kept thinking one of these days something will happen. And that's at that point when Matt had posted a picture and he said, "Oh, I got censored on this, blah, blah, blah." And I thought, and he showed the picture as it was. And I thought, that's wonderful. And I had just said, that's really good. And I would, work with you in a heartbeat or something like that.
Yeah, and he again echoed the thing we'd been saying to each other for decades. We got to do something someday.
Well, I had been, as most times you get frustrated because I have the sensibility I have, and then there's the mainstream. So what I think is wonderful to go, we can't publish that, or that's too far. And with Matt, I just figured
you're the bat in Aesop's Fable. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
Where there's a war between the birds and the beasts, and the birds come to the bat and say, "You're one of us." He says, "No, I'm a beast."
Yeah.
And the beasts come to the bat and he say, "No, I'm a bird."
Yeah.
And so as a result, he's neither, and that's why bats are isolated creatures.
Yeah, and and it felt that way, and it's odd. I don't. It's not a bad thing. I chose it. I'm fine with it. That's just the way.
Yeah, but you were behaving independently within those structures. I mean,
yeah,
I never when Dead Man came out, I was like, "Holy shit! They're letting him draw this like."
One of the great things from that DC did is I got in the mail. They overnighted it. Matt, an issue of Grendel, I believe, and Matt had written a great review of Batman that I was doing with Doug Mitch, saying, "Hey, look, it's back to something kind of cool and 40s and weird." And they were so taken at DC that they sent it to me with this note saying, "Look, this is real credentials here." And I thought I still have it.
We used to do every in the letters column. We used to do a good reads, and it wasn't limited to comics. We did novels and such as well.
Sure. And at that point, when I called him up, I says, "Okay, that means." I said the issue he chose, I had to fight like crazy to get a lot of the suits. So shut the fuck up and let me. And that's why. And I get to the point. Matt is a terrific writer and a career of ours. He's also an outstanding editor. So it isn't like we're sitting there. I instantly just trust. I go, if a guy can write this and knock me out, and I've read and seen and done everything, and I'm going, wow, this is blowing me away. What's so good is with the Brides coming out, I'm getting just deluged with reaction, and they're all saying the same thing I said when I read it all by myself in my room. They're all reacting to the same things. So
Kelly mentioned being an editor there. When I am acting in an editorial fashion, again, it's always about storytelling. It's always it's never about the appearance or the art or anything. It's all about, are we striking the chord we need to strike here?
And if you trust that, sometimes you need the distance. An editor is essential because you need the distance. Now, if they're an idiot, then okay. But
is there a third set of eyes then beyond the two of you?
It's your first audience.
Yeah, it's mainly just me. Yeah,
it's your first.
But like for instance, with book one, I knew that page one, we had to really strike something. Again, as I said, a chord. It needed to be a resonant chord. It needed to not only be that, it needed to be our chord. Again, Dracula's people already have many perceptions of Dracula, so it needed to be familiar, and yet it needed to be ours. And we went through that first page 4 times.
Oh yeah,
Kel, and every one that he drew looked great, but I was like, okay, here's the problem with this one, and here's the problem with this one, And every time he'd go, okay, I dig it, and he'd go back to the drawing board.
I never complained because he was right. I would go,
and then the one we finally hit was just perfect.
It was perfect. And so, tonally speaking, you go for that until you get it. No ego with me when it comes to this. I know what this is. I know how.
It makes it easier on my end too.
Well, there's no point to it. I mean, the books live forever. I don't need my 5 minutes.
And the point is, we need to make it the best story we can make it.
This is the first time,
and I'm equally rough on myself. I'm constantly going back and going, oh wait, okay, I've been it's a little overstated. I can cut that down a little bit.
I've been married 35 years. This is the first time my wife has been interested in something I'm doing. She will actually ask me, what's going on? Can I see what's up? Never did that before. Actually reads them.
Wow.
Yeah. And is like going, well, she's civilian, right? So, so for her, and so what I got was, I got a great couple of letters, emails from people reading it saying, hey, my wife or my girlfriend is really digging this, and they don't read comics. And I thought, well, that's due to Matt, and you trust that. That isn't me. I mean, that's, if anything, if you strip the words away and you look at it, you go, oh, come on. But when you put it all there and it's in context, I always tell Matt, my most exciting day is when Rob Lee, our letterer, sends something so I can see it all work together. How it do the beats hit.
This is a perfect opportunity to sing Rob's praises a little bit. Rob came to the project via Kelly. Kelly had worked with him before, and one of the problems in lettering Kelly's stuff is that everything looks great. Like, what do you cover up? Right? It's because you have to cover up something with the lettering.
Sure.
And he said Rob's really good at figuring out what can be sacrificed. What can be covered up, and he really is. And he has a lot of verve and personality in his lettering as well. But he is particularly good at making everything fit and everything flow. And
it seems like I'm just singing Matt's praises. One of the funny things I loved about Rob before we did this was he would kind of edit as he went, and he would tell the writer, well, you got this wrong, or this grammar doesn't work, or this reference is not, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't done that at all with this.
He did it with me twice.
Did twice. Okay. Twice. This is news to me.
Yeah. One was a word usage that he was right. And the other one was, Kel, that scene where Dracula slaps Gabriella and twists her head all the way around.
Yeah.
And as she's twisting, I decided, I hadn't had this in the original script. I decided we should stick in her kind of gagging as she's twisting her head around. And he said, "Oh, we should throw another one in too at the end of that balloon." And I was like, "You're right. Go ahead and do it." But that's all,
Yeah. And but he's just it's one of those things where it's a very overlooked thing, but lettering is an art, and this guy's got it. And
what were you about to say there, John?
Oh no, I was going to ask, and I love that what you're talking about with the lettering, and I'm showing preview pages for the audio audience. I'm showing preview pages from the Kickstarter. What about the coloring? And tell me about that for both of you.
There we go. Okay, this is a fun little behind the scenes thing. We had a different colorist to begin with, who shall remain unnamed. A very well regarded, highly sung A-list colorist, and I had given this person my outlook on how I think Kelly's stuff ought to be colored. And she did the first 2 pages, and they were the exact opposite of what I had said.
Yeah.
And, I went back and I said, what? I gave you notes on, how to approach this, and this is not. And she admitted, oh, I forgot that, and I didn't look at the notes. So we fired her on the spot. And so then we started searching around for somebody else. And I thought, hey, what about Jose Villarrubia? Because at that point, he had been doing this incredible work I was seeing some of it online, of restoration on Wrightson's original run on Swamp Thing. And he was also doing restoration stuff on the Corbin Library for Dark Horse.
Yep.
Wow.
And both of those, my coloring thing with Kelly is that Kelly's work needs to be colored brightly.
Yep.
Not a lot of super muted colors, And my opinion is that Kelly's already drawn in the shadows. You don't need to accentuate that. It's already there, And I told this to Jose, and I knew he would get it based upon those 2 examples I just cited. But then I also pointed him to, I was like, look, if we're talking about films, horror films, think about Suspiria by Dario Argento and Black Sabbath by Mario Bava. both of which are lit up like pinball machines.
Yeah.
They are so bright and neon, and they're spooky as can be. And boy, he got it in spades. And one neat thing that most people won't notice that he does, he fills in all the gutters as an off-white color. So if you're looking at that example there to our right in the center of the page there, you can see how the gutters aren't as bright as the word balloons.
Yeah.
And it really makes the word balloons pop. And it also gives an echo of the kind of 1970s books that Kelly and I hold so dear, and we're trying to honor and emulate with this project. You know?
Yeah, he's trying to do newsprint, like a newsprint.
Yeah. So he brought it in spades.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, his choices. I always tell him, he'll ask me, and I'll just say, go with whatever your inspiration is. I'm not.
And here again, I will say occasionally there's a storytelling color issue that I have to point out.
Yeah.
And Jose's just like, I don't know, 15 minutes later, he'll go, oh, okay, how about this? Boink, and there it is corrected. Yeah.
I would imagine he's coloring digitally and everything. So it is that
he's digital. Yep.
fast fix and everything. So that's great. So I'm so glad you guys mentioned the 70s horror magazines, because again, that's, they were on my racks as well, and it's amazing. So would you say that stuff is just in the back of your mind, having consumed it and stuff? Or again, Cal, do you divorce yourself from that?
I work very anachronistically. I'd still brush, paper, pen. So it's going to naturally it's going to have that anyway. And frankly, I always try to compete with the period that influenced me. So I'm not trying to ape it, but I'm trying to go further with it. And again, if you get a great story, you can do that. But I think comics, for me, realistic is great, but interesting's better to me.
Absolutely.
And
amen, brother.
So I'm going for interesting. I don't want effects and realism and all that, because it tends to pull me back.
And we have photographs for that. We have film for that,
Yeah. So
I want to see the little mistakes the artist makes that give it his own personality.
And I want those too, because sometimes something good comes out of it.
Absolutely. Yep.
There was early on, Matt has these certain sequences going on. One where he's more of a bat creature, but he has it where he's a bat creature, and then we see him in the forest and peering at the building. And I just left him the bat creature, just because he's going to be so dapper. And I thought, now that wouldn't happen if I tried to do. I'm worried about how realistic and how would this work. I don't care. And it just worked, and because I wanted it.
It's that page we're looking at, right?
Yeah,
right now?
There it is. That's and so at that point I thought, because we're going to see him in the top hat here. I didn't want to crowd his really good reveal, and so I went, he should be awful. And so that's one of those moments that I never would have in the reading of the script. I would say, he's Dracula and blah blah blah, but frankly, it comes from that, just letting it happen, and that falls in the same area as mistakes. But that's because whether someone likes what I do or not, I want them to know it's me, and they'll know by working in this way. It's not old school, it's not retro, it's not anything. But I don't have a problem with any of those terms, because I love that stuff.
Sure.
What it is idiosyncratic. And
another thing that links us to that is we're working in the same format, 8.5 by 11 for these books, not standard American comic book size. So
which has been a nightmare when I try to draw normal size again, because I've had to do a full thing. Sure. And then all of a sudden I go, I have no room. Everything's squished.
Yeah, see, that was one of the reasons I wanted to go this route to begin with. I was like, we need Kelly's art to have that room to breathe,
And it does.
And boy, it does. It really does.
Matt's pacing is great, because his panel, how many panels he has a page, I've never really thought of. And it's only until after I'd done, I went, man, this is really, everything is just the right amount. And then I would look and I would see the panel counts were just perfect for what he wanted to do. And it would sometimes run contrary. There's times where he'll want something and and again, it's where I'll give him this. It's afterwards I went, yeah, that was right. That's not how I would have approached it. But after the fact, I go, there's no other way it could be.
Oh, and vice versa, dude. I will give you stuff and it comes back and it's like, oh, it's not quite what I was picturing, but it looks great.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of, to me, comics, beyond my selfish, what I want to do, it's collaboration, and you get that third thing. And that.
Yeah. And I've been saying this especially on this book, because now we've really hit a stride, but I just feel like Kelly and I are, we all know those various teams throughout the history of comics, who were just, they were like Lennon and McCartney, you couldn't tell one from the other. It was a perfect synthesis. And, let's say Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, and Chris Claremont and John Byrne, and, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And, the list goes on and on and on. And I really feel like we're soaring at those heights. Like we are hitting those same kind of notes.
I will say now that I've done, God, how much is it? About 400 pages or something of this? Yeah, something like that. Or 300.
A little over three. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I can now say that. I can now say that what you just said. I hadn't thought of it that way. But I would say now that's very true. That just there's nothing Matt will throw at me that would frighten me to do. That I like, oh God, it isn't. I haven't run into one of those. What I can say is, because never in this has it been anything boring. I think boring is where people miss it. It's like, oh God, I got this. Matt doesn't do endless guys talking.
I do some guys talking.
Yeah, while they're covered in blood or she's naked, then they're talking. But it's fascinating. And Matt, what you have him say is interesting, and it doesn't parrot. I mean, it isn't like you're not teaching anyone anything. You're showing them something.
Yeah,
and that's
and I every time I've from my very beginning of my career in comics, I've been inspired by a quote from Edgar Allan Poe, which was that in a short story, every word has to tell. And I just feel it's that with comics, that, every word has to tell, every picture has to tell, every color has to tell, every line has to tell. And you don't want those tells being repeated. Everyone needs to propel it to the next moment, propel it to the next emotion, propel it to the next consequence. And that's just the way I do everything, and always have.
Well, you don't have to read 120 pages of Matt to get to the point. He does the point about every 5 to 10 to 8 pages. They sequence and sequence and sequence. They all build. They all pay off. And then you get a crescendo. And to me, that's, again, something where I don't feel like I'm spinning my wheels. Like, okay, how do I I've had a lot of stuff I've had to do where I'm like going, how do I make this interesting? For me, with Matt, it's not that anymore. It's like, okay, I have to bring up the game, or I have to make the point he's making here. I have to make it clear with a lot of emotion. I appreciate
but there's also, you always add little details of your own that just make it all the better too.
But that's to accentuate the point. When we have Tatiana putting him off, my first thought when I got to it is, he's not just going to do her neck. He's going to do it everywhere, because he's been.
Yeah, he's referring to when he finally gets the last bride.
Yeah, you had it go on for such a long time.
And it was only like when I looked at it the second or third time, I realized, oh shit, he's bitten her like 6 times all over the place.
Yeah, because
he's just gnawing at her. He's just so voracious.
Every guy I knew would get that. If they caught it, they would get it.
Yeah. But then in the Count, when he's in London, there's you'll see him walking along, and there's a trail of rats behind him. Or you see him, he's sitting at a cafe at a couple of points, and he gets up and leaves, and there's insects crawling all over where he had touched. And that wasn't in the script. That's all Kel, layering.
But Matt always make it always clear he's corruption.
Yeah,
you always make sure you say that all the time. So somewhere I want to add to that, to someone to just, they'll see it and go, yes, he would be that way. They just would be there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just, but those are the things that happen when I'm drawing. It doesn't.
It's
happen
nothing
when-
he's commanding. They are
No,
drawn.
I don't read it.
They are drawn to his
Yeah.
dark light. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's
And we have another. I won't reveal what it is, but in the count we have another kind of significant, a couple significant moments of that, of a character being drawn to his darkness and not able to resist themselves. One of the aspects of as I said, it's so highly analyzed and annotated and such. There's some big debate amongst Dracula scholars as to what year the events fully took place, because the book's published in 1897, and at the end of the narrative, one of the journal entries says it's been 7 years since the characters faced and defeated Count Dracula. So that would put it in 1890, but there's no indication as to when these journal entries were written in comparison to the publication of the book. So various scholars have various takes on it. I ended up siding with Leslie Klinger, who wrote the new annotated Dracula, that it takes place in 1888, and I did that for a very specific reason. And you'll find out why eventually.
Yes, that actually is a big deal. Yes.
Yep.
I think if we know Victorian London, 1888, some things come to mind. So I think that's great. That's if I'll wait till we're off the air, and then I will.
Gilbert and Sullivan came out. It was Gilbert and Sullivan.
Is all right, and right, obviously, Halloween season. Here we are. First of all, for people who backed the Kickstarter, by the way, congratulations! My God, you got 28 days to go. You've more than exceeded your goal, and it's so.
Oh, but our goal is a joke. Our goal is $666. Hail Satan!
But no, I'm really glad that those 1,000 plus people have responded so well. For a newbie that is hearing this or watching this and now wants to get in, to get obviously, I know you're offering, or I'm assuming you're offering volumes 1 and 2 in the current campaign as well. Would they get them? Would they get them in advance of the third volume?
It'll depend on our existing stock. We have plenty of We have plenty of book 1. We might need to go back to press with book 2. But you will get them. You'll get them before you get book 3. Put it that way.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, that's a good question, John, because I've been asked that a lot, because there's people and as soon as I do it, they'll go buy all 3. And yes, they can get them. They're hard to get. And to Matt's credit, I think he's built this thing's reputation. I'd love to say me, but the story is so original, and everything is story, whether it's movie or comics, it's story first, story first, story first.
But it's Lennon and McCartney, dude. You needed McCartney to write that bridge in Day in the Life.
And that's after but I think it's so. I was talking about ideas earlier. Matt's ideas are that good, where you're captivated. I was reading a script, no pictures. So,
but to go back to your question there, John, yes, they can get the books 1 and 2. The Kickstarter campaign, let me point out, is the only place to get the hardcovers. And we have, with all 3 volumes, although I don't know how many we have of the previous, but with each campaign and each volume, each book, we've offered 3 editions, a cover by Kelly, a variant cover by me, and then a limited signed and numbered edition as well. Yeah. But if you are not prone to, if for some reason you don't dig Kickstarters, you don't want to get into that realm, and there are plenty that don't, Dark Horse Comics then releases a trade paperback version that you can get either online, booksellers online, or at your favorite LCS. The trade paperbacks come out about a month after backers receive our. So our imprint is called Orlock Press, for obvious reasons, and you get the once the Orlock Press backers, the Kickstarter people, get their hardcover editions. Then about a month later, the trade paperback edition is available.
I think why so many people also want the hardcovers is, to be perfectly honest, and yes, I keep praising Matt. He's made something good, but they've become collectible. They're impossible to find now. I've looked for some I figured, okay, I'll go online and get some, and you can't. And if you do, they're through the roof. So
do you need copies? Because I have a bunch.
I don't want to give up all mine, so I go and find other people.
Well, just let me know how many you need. I'll just send it to you, because we got it in the storage unit. So
that's good, because I'd like them to go to people ordering it.
Yeah.
But I have friends who have stores. I have friends who are in, and they said, no, these are really expensive now, if you can find one. So Matt's, the thing that I was happy was with the third one is, your first book will do great. If it's going to do great, if like anything, first issue. And then the second one did really, really well too. And that I was, wow. But the third one started better than the second one. And that I put on Matt, because now people know what, okay, now we get it. And now we know what's going on. And
now we're established. With book 2, it's like, can lightning strike twice?
No, my wife said that last night. She didn't even know any of this. She doesn't know all that. She just said, Jesus. She goes, this is doing, I know this is doing better than the second one. And the second one was a home run. And she goes, this is because Matt's done. Because I've been drilling in her head. It's story. It's got to be, or because that's me.
Story's what resonates. Story's what you think about in bed.
But the story is so filled with so many ideas that when you read it, Matt, this is true. You start thinking about it, and that's what I was doing. I would read and go, I hadn't thought of that, or that's a good point. So that keeps going on, and then that becomes a book. You go back and say, I'm going to read that again, because those things resonate. God, it's
these are all just things that I found I had to answer from the book. The book has a lot of great shit, but it's got a lot of stuff. It's like, well, why is that like that?
127 years, no one is asking the questions Matt asked. And
for instance, in the novel, once Harker gets to the novel, Dracula's old at that point. He's decrepit looking. It's almost like he can't get fresh blood, And yet the brides aren't. The brides are young and beautiful looking. And why is that? And he speculates perhaps it has something to do with their lunar cycle, as he puts it. The fact that they are of the moon. Maybe that's, he doesn't know why. Yeah, but
And I like that he doesn't know why. I like that not everything is known to him either.
Yeah.
So it leaves the door open for speculation. If Matt were to, for example, Soren's not in the book enough, I'm going to write a book about Soren because I want to know what Soren was up to through all these actions. He would do the same thing where you go, hey, I never thought of that before. That's because Dracula, I never thought of those things. He's just there and then he goes away and you hear little bits, but I didn't think much of it. And then Matt would just start saying, but haven't you ever wondered? And I go,
here's another one. Why is he known as Count Dracula?
Yeah.
Like, how did he get that title? He wasn't that wasn't his title way back in the 15th century.
Yeah, he's
right. He was called a voivode, which is a Eastern European term for a warlord.
Yeah, warlord.
A warlord prince, basically. Yeah.
But you can't
but how did he get the moniker of Count? Somebody would have to bestow that upon him, and if he's a vampire, nobody's gonna you are now Count Dracula, and we have it at the end of book 2 that he basically takes that name on himself to deal with the English. He was like, the English are very class oriented, as is proper, he says. But they'll respond to this. And if I go with something like a title like a count, it won't draw as much attention as calling myself a king or a prince. So it's tactical, and yet it's self-generated, and it explains how he's Count Dracula,
And it opens doors so he can be invited everywhere.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
How many pages was the original Stoker novel?
Oh, it's about 400, I think.
Yeah, I
maybe
thought
a little
so.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was going to say, and again, everything I think of is always, and as Wells pointed out, we think of the play. We don't think of the real novel and everything. But there you go. Okay, because honestly, guys, I was going to give you credit
because the play is what turns it into more of a drawing room mystery. It's what gives them those evening clothes and that kind of thing. It's what the Bela Lugosi film is based upon. The original stage play.
Yes.
But here's a for instance that from the book that most people don't ever consider because it has now become part of vampire lore in general. He does not die in sunlight. Sunlight does not make him burst into flames. That was an invention of Nosferatu, the first film version, which was a illegal adaptation, an unauthorized adaptation. And they were basically incorporating German folklore of trolls in sunlight get turned into stone, so sunlight destroys evil. But in the book, he can walk around in the daylight, no problem. He doesn't have his full vampiric powers. He can't transform into things. He's not as physically strong. But I don't know how well you remember the Coppola film version. I have a real love-hate relationship with that one. But the first time Gary Oldman as Dracula meets Mina, Winona Ryder's Mina, it's on the streets of London in broad daylight.
And in Langella's, he's out on an overcast day.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. Sure.
Yeah.
Crazy. Honestly, guys, Christopher.
Although
Lee,
it is sunlight that burns him up at the end, and that one sunlight does hurt him. Yeah.
Well, he had a big thing through his heart, so
Yeah, that too. But the sunlight's burning him up when he's up in the air there above the ship. But
yeah,
that has just become standard vampire lore now, and not in the book.
Yeah.
Interesting. Really, because again, I was going to give you guys credit for taking something maybe that was only 200 pages and you're already on 300 or whatever. Now you said there's going to be at least another one.
At least another one, and we have plans for some other things beyond that, which will have to remain mysterious for now. But,
well, honestly, though, I truly, not being nice, guys, like you said, and Matt, you're so right to point to the other great duos and stuff. But it is so great that you guys have found this project to really come together on. And it's great to hear that whatever is planned beyond Dracula, if it's still within that sphere or you're going other places, I think that's wonderful. And I'm so glad. And is there enough time to do other projects if you guys want to do other things beyond
not
the duo?
Not Kel so much. He's working mainly on Dracula. But I'm doing some Grendel stuff right now. So aside from that,
I always have it in my mind.
My main focus too.
I always have it in my mind that through Orlok, I'll be doing Dracula. But Matt finds someone he wants to work with and put something through Orlok. I'm fine with that.
No, I understand.
Yeah, we might branch Orlok off into publishing other people's work as well.
Yeah, in fact, I would hope so.
About that.
Honestly, I would hope so. I would like that.
Are there other? I mean, again, this is what's great about Kickstarter, truly. And I mean, prior to this, had you done Kickstarters in the past? Either of you?
No, and I've been in the independent end of the business since the very beginning. And this just seemed like, well, this is an all new model, an all new publishing model, and let's give it a try. And luckily, it worked out great. And I will say, it worked out great because we had the smarts to know how stupid we were about it. and to hire really good people to help us. So our PR firm, Superfan Promotions, and James Aquilon from Monsters Press runs the campaigns. So we have really good help.
Sure. Yeah, I know James. Absolutely.
Matt had originally wanted to go through a publisher, but we kept running into roadblocks and all the crap that goes with it. And finally, I remember telling Matt, they're not going to publish what he's writing. They're going to come in and do that. And it might be good to look into something like that. And Matt said, well, what do we know about this? And I said, well, I'm seeing other people do it, and they're easily,
they're as big idiots as we are.
Yeah. So it's got to be. And so Matt looked into it and said, okay, I think that's possible. Are you willing to do that? And, through my own.
Yeah, I reached out to some other creators I knew who had done it, and they said, okay, here's how we did it. Yeah, we hired people that knew how to do it.
Yeah, and Matt said, "Look, it's going to be however much time." And I said, "No, I get it." And he says, "And I would like it to be done or close to done, so from when we finish, it can be in people's hands before the next one." So I knew it was going to be that kind of but I've done this long enough that my biggest fear was being bored, and my second is being disappointed and bored. And I knew with this, I'm not bored and I won't be disappointed. And the books are the thing. When Matt and I are dead, these are our headstones,
Yeah, and I'm just so glad that, again, we mentioned earlier how, we had circled around each other looking for a project together for literally decades. And I'm so glad we waited for it to be exactly right.
Well,
and when I first called Cal and said, hey, are you serious? Are you serious about us doing something? Because I think I got it. I think I got the perfect thing for us, but it's going to take 5, 6, maybe more years,
Okay. And I thought he's talking either something of his, but most likely maybe Batman. That was what I thought. I didn't know until he then said, I don't want to say it. I want to tell you. And he called me up and then he told me what it was. And within just a few minutes of him doing this way he was looking at it, and where he wanted it to go. It was all of maybe 5 or 10 minutes that he had told me everything he wanted to do. It was still
nascent. It was still nascent.
It was embroid, but his general major points were there. And I was completely captivated. I hung up the phone. I told my wife, I said, I think I just committed to a relationship because this is wonderful. I have not been this, I was that. And she'll tell me all the time, I've never seen you this happy. And by that, I mean, I'm not going, oh, look what I drew today. I'm not bitching and moaning or grumpy or anything about, what I thought it was going to be and what it was going to turn out to be.
Yeah. Can't wait to get in the studio.
Yeah, I do. I just go down and I sit and I work. And
in fact, I was just telling him the other day, I was awake in the middle of the night the other night, and I was just thinking, and I got inspired. And so I whipped out my laptop and I wrote like the first 5 pages of book 4.
Yeah.
Like at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah. That's beautiful. All right.
that.
Now, given that you're both Batman men in your past, I am curious because it's still about 8 or 9 years away, but eventually public domain Batman will be available, a form of it. And Matt, you've danced around that in terms of reinterpreting those first handful of detective stories as you did, and they're great. And Kel, you have a very distinct take. Is there any itch to go back and do a Batman story your way, given that you'll be able to within the parameters of Detective 27?
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like every time I think about Batman these days, when both Kelly and I were messing around with the character, the pit hadn't been dug as deeply and mined as much as it has been. And I just almost feel like, God damn, so much has been done with it now. But you could say the same about Dracula, obviously, and I got a good take on it. Yeah. So
see, Matt will say that, and then Matt will say, I know I said this, but this popped in my head. And
I like to hedge my bets.
Because Matt, the thing I always had was I always saw him as the 40s now, and I did a lot of anachronistic things within it. I would look at Matt's and I go, Matt kind of does the same thing. He does his thing. I remember sitting in the office. I'm in California, but they had me back there. And some of Matt's stuff came in, and it was this wonderful shot of this 2-page spread of a blimp.
Oh yeah, and Batman's tied to the front of it.
Man, I just
remember that.
Creamed it over that. I just went, that's it. And I just went on and on and on. And I kicked myself when I got home because I didn't go and make stats of these things.
I'm going to get on my my soapbox here. I have this thing that I keep talking about, which is that I find all the best pop culture characters, they really only exist best in the time and place and technology they were originally created.
Yep.
Because you look at Batman now, he's not a Dark Knight detective. He's a paramilitary character. He's wearing armor, he's literally now called the Dark Knight. That was not his moniker way back when. He was known as the Dark Knight Detective, and Knight N-I-G-T, not K-N-I-G-T. And it just carries through to almost every instance you can think of. Everybody talks about Superman, how do the glasses, my parents are from that era. I have probably 2 photographs of each of them before 1960. People's photos weren't taken all the time,
I know.
James Bond. I want James Bond in the 60s. I want all that. I want all the Cold War paranoia, and I want all the sexism and racism and all that.
Yeah.
It's what makes the character fucked up and interesting.
And when I was doing Batman, every time there would be a sequence where I could, though it wasn't asked in any of the scripts I got, I would always have him use his utility belt and pull out some device. I would always have it like a man-bat catcher. They said, one, they said, well, he throws something and catches him. I said, no, he has a thing.
He's got one. He's already got one.
And it does its thing.
Yeah.
And, or whenever I would do the Batcave, I would have it like with almost look like a Pittsburgh steel mill. It's always pouring things and doing things just to make it interesting and not look like the last guys. But it was like, to Matt's point, 40s. I was always thinking 40s, 50s type of character.
Yeah. And it really carries across the board. Of course, Tarzan doesn't work Africa still had to be the dark continent at that point. You know what I mean? It had still be greatly unexplored. You know,
Unexplored. Yeah.
Yep.
Zorro, Matt, you made these points to me years ago. One of our earliest conversations.
Zorro, my favorite one though is the Shadow. The Shadow only works in a day and a time when every man in the street is wearing a hat, because otherwise it's like, well, who's that asshole in the hat? You know. And it only works in a time and place when cities still had shadows, because they don't anymore. Every alleyway is lit up bright as can be, you know?
None of that holds back from a great Batman story. I always tell him if he was doing it now, people going ape shit. Because they would be Batman.
Did any of you watch the latest animated series, Caped Crusader?
I did. Cape Crusader. I liked it.
Kelly, it's terrific if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's set in the 40s. The only anachronism is there's DEI stuff in that there are people of color in, like, Commissioner Gordon's black, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
But you know, that doesn't affect anything.
No, of course not.
But the best part of it is Batman's not the main character. He has no story arc. He's the beginning, same at the beginning as he is at the end.
Yeah.
And it's all the side characters and the villains have the story arcs.
Which is fascinating.
He's wearing the old costume with the little short gloves,
Yeah.
and the guys all carry Tommy guns, and the cars are old style cars. It's really good.
Yeah, that's the thing I always used to hate about when I was doing it, was the new cars. So I always said, screw it. They're old cars.
You always do old.
Yeah,
old
I just
floppies, like hopping around.
I would still. They have a telephone with a wire. Hook and ladder or something. That was always my rebellion. Was they'd say he gets on the phone. I go, well, they didn't say what kind of phone, and so I have to be like, you know.
No, I love it. That makes sense. Well, Matt, you even said that,
following through with that
Maps.
too. A billionaire couldn't have a secret existence like that, you know.
That's what I was going to say. Also, Google Maps, as you told me years ago, that it's like, come on, man, the Batcave's not going to stay, undiscovered
very long.
forever.
Yeah,
you know, he would have to wear a full mask. The facial recognition technology would analyze that face and that half face. Yeah. Again, it only exists back then because it was cool back then.
And that's the thing about realism. It's not as interesting.
And that's why, I think eventually that's why the X-Men took over as the predominant kind of superhero, because they want secret identities and they can't have them. Yeah. They are continually being exposed. Yeah. And that's much more contemporary than, I read a cool thing too about how, in the old days, it made sense to have Batman helping the police department because the police department wasn't a paramilitary unit. Ever since, Congress started selling military ordnance to local police stations, now police have tanks and they're all loaded up with riot gear. And
drones.
Why do they need Batman? Huh? They're what? What'd you say, Cal?
They got drones.
Yeah. Why do they need Batman? Whereas back in the old days, when they just wore uniforms and had one little gun, Yeah,
it's got to be in the 30s. Yeah.
You guys are killing me. That's fantastic, man. Well, I don't want to keep you guys. I mean, honestly, you know me. I'd love to talk to you guys forever. And I also, by the way, one of the easiest hosting jobs I've ever had because
we're both chatterboxes.
Matt, you guys are the sizzle. Okay, I'm here every day.
But more importantly, we both know how we feel about this project, and we feel very deeply about it.
Well, that's the thing, man. And your passion comes through absolutely for both of you, and your excitement for that. And I know that people watching and listening, and we really do have. Literally, we only have had 2 comments, but we've had a captive audience. Dennis wants you to know, Matt, that he's such a fan. He thought Tower Chronicles.
The Tower Chronicles, my great long lost project.
And he says Brennan is a hell of an artist. All the best.
Oh, I'll pass that along to him. He'll much appreciate that. Thank you, Dennis.
That's cool. Cal, any Halloween covers? It seems like this is your season in terms of variant covers or whatever beyond Dracula.
My whole focus has been this.
Excellent, man.
I don't like anything that really takes me. Early on, there was a few things I'd already committed to, and I began to really resent it because it was taking me away from. I could feel the difference, and it's not a knock on those projects. They were fine. They were perfectly fine. But this is like a pure thing. Yeah, and and you can tell.
I was saying to him just the other day, as good as books 1 and 2 were, he has this focus and intensity on book 3 here that really, I don't want to say it blows books 1 and 2 away, but I really noticed the difference. I really
Yeah,
noticed it.
I think because you have the tonal change, the atmospheric change, the character is now different than the one he could be who he was. He didn't have to hide it. Now he does. So it does change how you approach it. And so I have to do different things to get across the same, he's a vile, terrible guy. And that's fun. I mean, all of this is fun. I think when they're all put in one book, it's going to be spectacular.
John, go back to that page you were just showing there.
My pleasure, buddy.
That's where he first makes his appearance in downtown London, and the captions are too small for us to read here, but I'll just read them off of my script. It says, "Rest assured, British knights will soon take on a whole new tenor, one of unbridled terror, now that Count Dracula has come to town. I feel more exhilarated than I have in years, indeed centuries."
Nice.
See, it all
Absolutely.
works. You live
Very
for
exciting, guys.
that. You live for that.
All right, guys. Everybody, Volume 3 of Dracula is
Kickstarter's live right now, and again, you can still get books 1 and 2. We have all sorts of cool. We are offering. This is a little unknown fact. Kelly really doesn't sell his original art, so Kelly's art on the market is very rare. And we are doing 10 original 8.5 by 11 pieces that Kelly is drawing and inking, and I am then color painting. So it's a collaboration between the two of us. And then we are taking those 10. So needless to say, those are pretty expensive so far as a reward tier. Then we're taking those 10 and reproducing them as a full color 8.5 by 11 portfolio, which you can also purchase.
Yeah.
But we've got some T-shirts. We've got the limited edition, the 2 hardcover editions, his cover, my cover. Go check it out. It's live now.
Yep.
There you go, everybody. Absolutely. No, and that's, I'm sorry, mentioning a portfolio, again, makes me think of my days as a kid and all those.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're doing what we want. You know what I mean?
I have Brent Anderson's Kazar portfolio.
Yeah. Those were ubiquitous back in the day, you know?
God, I loved them. I used to love Marshall Rogers did a great Batman one.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Of course, all 4 guys in the studio.
Absolutely, man.
Jones, Wintersmith, Kaluta, and Wrights, and used to do them all the time.
Yeah, so many great ones. I miss that. I do miss that. Fan ephemera was so much more fun then too. Everything was just sort of for the love of it, you know.
Yeah. Well, it had that same vibe as music did in the 70s as well. Where it really they just felt more pure in terms of what everybody was doing.
Again, there was the eccentricity of everybody. No one was trying,
and everything wasn't filtered through a marketing scheme,
a corporation, and marketing.
And market research and shit like that. It was like, we're doing this because we like it and it's cool, you know.
I do this thinking like, hey, come look at this. You shouldn't look at this, but you got to look at this. I don't think like, any big scheme of it. It's like Matt writes taboo, and I love that. So I want to keep it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Matt, you're working on Grendel. Is there anything
I'm working on some Grendel stuff? Yeah. The first it's a 4-part long story arc, each of which is four issues. Each chapter is 4 issues. The first one came out last year. The next one is scheduled for this coming summer.
Oh, okay. For next summer?
Yep, and I'm well ahead. I have that 4-issue run done. I have the next 4-issue run done, and I'm in the middle of the last 4-issue run. So, are
you solo, or do you have an artist for it?
No, it's me. It's writing and drawing, and then Brennan, my son, is the colorist.
Yeah. Yes. Good job. Excellent, man. No, and I've enjoyed. You guys worked together on. Wasn't it the Spirit, or what did you guys work on?
I didn't write. I just wrote the Spirit. The Batman Grendel crossover, the Shadow, the Death of Margot Lane, the Last Mage series. We've done a lot of stuff together.
You did the coloring on those?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Death of Margot Lane, certainly, absolutely.
Yep. We just did Robert Kirkman's very smartly. That guy's a marketer, I'll tell you, man. He, Walking Dead wrapped up with issue 190 something, 3 or 4. He's reprinting them all in color now. He's having them colored and reprinting them and issuing them all as individual comics. So they contacted me and wanted me to do what they called a suite of 6 covers. And they said, And if you can hook them together in any sort of tapestry kind of way, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. So what I did was I did an animated sequence. So there's a big main character in the center of each cover that changes character from issue to issue. So it's Rick, then it's Jesus, then it's Ezekiel, then it's Michonne, then it's Carl, then it's Negan at the end. But their motions, it's an animated thing. And then in the back is this giant tapestry of zombie faces that stretches over the entire thing. 150 zombie faces. No two are the same. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of messed up mouths and hanging out eyeballs and exposed brains and all that kind of stuff. It was a blast.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
Outstanding. That's great. Guys, seriously, I'm so happy for you, and I'm so glad this is working as well as it is.
Well, thanks for having us on again, John. You're always a fun gab.
Well, it's a reaffirmation from the fans how much they love you, and I'm part of that group.
I cannot appreciate it more. I think it is what you said. I think, like I said, it's one part that Matt hit something that is resonating, and the other is it's recognizable as a comic.
Yeah, that too. Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, volume 3 of their Dracula epic continues. The Kickstarter is live now. This is your call to action. Go out there and back this thing. You're not,
John. Can we get you to drop the URL for the Kickstarter down in the bottom
sure.
part?
Here, hold on one second, everybody. Let me put that in. I will put it in as a banner and also in the chat. Let me do that. Let's see here. I'm going to create the banner, kids. Live happening while we're doing it. Shame on me, Matt, for not doing it sooner. But here, let me put it in the chat first. Okay. Whoops. Hold on. Fat fingers. But I'm working on it.
Guilty as charged.
Working on it. Oops. One sec. Control V. Boom. There we go. Okay. Hold on, everybody. All right. Get out of the way. There it is. All right. Boom.
I was going to say, that just came up as a V. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Right on.
So there it is.
Thanks, man. Yep.
Absolutely,
Anybody,
man.
if you're interested, follow that. You can get all 3 volumes there.
Indeed.
With more to come.
Man, can't believe it. So Kelly Jones, Matt Wagner, as always, I appreciate you guys talking. And, again, you made it really easy today. So thank you. And
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
This was a lot.
All right, everybody.
See you, John.
See you guys. That'll do it for Word Balloon Live this week. Lots of great stuff happening next week. Jesse Blaze Snyder, D. Snyder's kid from Twisted Sister, continues to make interesting projects, and we'll be talking to him on Monday about his latest project. But until then, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.